Resources on the next page. Now, we've talked a little bit about this. Now, we talked before about people, skills, knowledge, experience, match the people, availability, productivity, attitude. What's wrong with this? What's the problem? I mean, this is great. This is great. Yes, we all believe in this. But in fact, what's the issue? What's the problem?
You'll never get it to match. You'll
never get it to match, right? You're going to have a mixture. You'll get a mixture of people in the team, and they won't necessarily collectively or individually have the skill sets to complement each other, and there's going to be holes and gaps and whatever. Yeah. What are some other problems?
Even if that person has the right skill set, doesn't mean that they're free to actually do the
No. Guess what? We have a saying, I guess you call it an idiom, a saying in English, if you want something done, give it to a busy person. You think, don't give something to a person who's busy because they're too busy, but the thinking there is busy people will get it done because they're efficient. They can handle a lot. They can take a lot of content. So we say in English, you want something done, give it to a busy person. The trouble is we're all going to be busy. And resources may not be sufficient. Skill sets may not be right. Attitude. What about attitude? This is one of the things we struggle with. People's attitude to the project. Some people are very perfectionist. Others are very, should be fine. Good enough, close enough is good enough. Once over lightly. Pick your choice of descriptions here, but you get different attitudes in people. And reliability. So the people part of this resource is actually, out of all of these, the most tricky part in reality, right? Money, funds, you're either going to get the funds or you're not going to get the funds. Generally speaking, you'll get those. Equipment, generally speaking, you'll have enough, big cars or whatever it is, the equipment you need, generally you'll have that. Supplies, generally you'll get that stuff. Information though, that's not such an easy one. Getting the right information from the right people at the right time to help you input into what you're doing. Why is that an issue? I mean, we've all got mobile phones, we've got this internet, we've all got massive technology there, fibre optics, we've got the works. So we've never had a better time in human history to be really humming along in terms of the information exchange. What's the problem? Where do we have trouble? Volume, yeah. Volume. If you want to have a really good laugh, was it Sleepless in Seattle? Where the thing, you got mail comes up, like the thing goes bing, you've got mail. I mean, you got probably 5 in a week in those days, Everyone turns off that damn noise now because you'd be going ping, ping, ping all day. You're getting, I probably get 50 to 100 emails a day, every single day. It's endless. And you guys are probably the same, right? So it's volume overload, isn't it? And it's also getting it in a timely manner. You've got a sequence, you've got a baseline schedule. Things need to feed into that. Like you're saying before, Max. You got a baseline schedule. You aren't getting the feed. Where's this information? I need to complete this report. The people say, Max, no problem. We'll just extend the deadline for you because you didn't get those other people were naughty and they didn't give you the thing when they should have done it, and we're going to really hold them to task for that and give you a big extension. So did that happen? I don't think so. And if they didn't do what they were supposed to do, did they ring them up and say, hey, you didn't support Max? You didn't do the right thing by Max? You should have been more collegiate and see the bigger picture? No. Max gets it right in the neck. Max, you didn't have the report done in time. But no buts, Max. Right? That's the issue, right? That's the issue. So resources, some are trickier than others. People and information are probably some of the trickiest. And are there any other key resources that we haven't sort of covered that will impact your projects being completed on time? What would be something that's not in this list or something we haven't talked about that would be something you'd really you'd really want to make sure you had it.
Feeds into people, but intellectual.
Let's go on to 2.22. Now we get the resources and we line them up to meet the tasks. So these tasks are mini bite-sized pieces of the projects. Big project gets taken down to sections, gets taken down to smaller sections, and then tasks and work, right? So we're getting at the nitty-gritty, deeper level here, right? So what are the tasks? So we've actually come up with, to complete this project, we know what outcomes are, we know what the timelines are, these are things we need to do, and we nominate all those things we need to do. Now some things may actually need to be done, which we haven't planned for, but we're flexible and we incorporate those and keep going. So now we know what the task is. Now who should we select to do this? We talked about that. Sometimes we've got the right people, we don't have the right people. Sometimes they volunteer, sometimes they don't volunteer. Sometimes we've got to delegate and sell them on the delegation, which is hard in a flat organisation sometimes you describe. But we're looking for this, you know. And we consider an A and B team. The B team, there might be in the team, there might be a certain group who do certain high-level complicated tasks and another group who do more logistical tasks. Again, depending on their experience, their willingness, their intellect, their capability, you might start splitting that out. Then you plan the assignment, so okay, we know what we need, we know where we are now, here's the goals, the performance standards, we've worked out what they are. So what are the resources we need to make sure those goals are hit? We make the assignment, so we've got, here's what you have to do. Here is the area we need you to work on. Don't expand this task beyond this limit. This is enough. We get to this point, we're good. Don't take it further because we've got other tasks that need to be completed as well. Don't have scope creep start at that base level, which can easily do. And make sure they've got the right information and that they understand the why and the what, and you might need to help them with the how, depending on how much knowledge and experience they've got. Right? So why, what, and how are really critical in project management. And then the action plan, so let them develop an action plan. Again, why do we do that? Why don't we just tell them, right, I want you to do this, I want you to do that, then this, and this, and this, and then this, and this. Right? Why doesn't that work well? How do you feel when you're told to do that?
I feel less appreciated.
Less appreciated? Yeah, I didn't have confidence in you to work that out for yourself. I'm sort of insulting you, but no, I'm sort of like, you're that dumb. I've got to give you 10 things to do on the how, because I don't think you have the mental capability of doing it. That's how we feel about that, right? But if someone says to us, well, Ben, you know, this task here, got any ideas on how we might approach that? And Ben has some ideas, and I might have some ideas, and he might have better ideas than I've got, or different ideas to what I've got. Or I might think of something that he says, and I think, oh, you just said something, and Ben, I thought, you know what, I heard that there was this report that would actually help us, so thank you, let's get that in there. You know, so we will stimulate each other. Then it becomes a consultative, cooperative process with ownership by the person who's been assigned to the task. And that ownership is critical. In Dale Carnegie we say, people support a world they help to create. So if you are involved in the creation of how that task is going to be executed, you will support it. You will be motivated and you will be committed and you will be diligent and you will get it done. But if you just take the power away and they start treating you like a child and give you 15 steps one after another and, you know, micromanage you to death, well, your motivation goes, well, comply. And what also disappears is your innovation. You might have ways of speeding it up, creative ideas for improving it, the quality, but you're not going to say anything because you're, you know, if you don't care, you don't care. You know, if you don't care, you don't care about innovating. So we don't want to lose that care factor with people. So then we review the plan. So we both agree the plan. What's the issue if we don't both agree the plan? What comes up later? Conflict. Why? Well, and different expectations and supposedly different understandings. Oh, I didn't realise that. Oh, I didn't understand you meant that. Right? Now, sometimes these are an excuse and they're legitimate, and sometimes they're not, but they still come up. And that's why reviewing it together and agreeing it is very important. And then you start. So now we're on to implementation. Let's go to 2.23. So now we've got to look at the project. We should be reviewing things that have been done. So during the project, what should we review? Okay, let's look at the completed and any final deliverables, how they're tracking, which milestones have been reached. That's a good indicator. If you're not hitting your milestones, that tells you a lot, right there. If you're missing target dates, that tells you everything. Things are started, things are finished on time or not. Now, hours work towards each activity. When you're coming to plan a future activity, it's fantastic to have some sort of record of how many hours are involved in that project. When you come to plan the next one, you've got a reasonable idea about how long that will take. We talked about duration before, duration of tasks. Often we're guessing. But if you've built up some information about previous projects about how many hours it took, that helps you when you're planning. So do you have a way of keeping track of that? Do you have a way of keeping track of how many hours you worked on this particular project? Do you have that now? You don't, huh? So this might be something that you innovate with and start having some simple record. It doesn't have to be, not like lawyers, every 15 minutes so they can charge you. It doesn't have to be that extreme, but something you can do. You do similar things often. And you reinvent the wheel often. There are probably things that you don't have to keep reinventing. You can look at something and say, well, that last time, that took 30 hours. And I mean, it's got to be true hours. If you work 12 hours in the day, you can't count that as 8. You've got to say, well, that was 12 hours to produce that. That's what it took. So that tells you can't get through it in one day. It's going to take overtime or extra work to get that completed, either at home or at the office, right? So it's good to know that. Then you say, well, actually, that's a day and a half. Right? It's a day and a half, it's not a day. Good to know that. Very good to know that. Any other resources that you used, any expenses, you're tracking these things, how do we go? Then the optimization, right? So not everything goes to plan, sadly. And we talk about, engaging team members to maximize productivity. I love these bold statements, engaging team members to maximize productivity. Sounds good, Sounds fantastic. Well, good. How do you do that? And this is the problem, We make these assumptions that everyone's engaged. Well, are they? When we do surveys in Japan, for example, in companies, the highly or the fully engaged, let me call it the fully engaged percentage of staff, percentage of staff in Japan. It varies from survey to survey, but it's somewhere between 2 and 7%. That's all. So somewhere between 93 and 98% of Japanese working in companies are not fully engaged at all. So, assuming that engagement is there is not the case. And what was really interesting, we did our own survey, and this shocked me. That something like, let's try to get the actual numbers now. Only about, I think it was just under 50, it was about maybe 46%. It was roughly, say half. Only half of the people who said in the survey that they really liked their manager were engaged. I was shocked when I read that survey result. Because I had just assumed If someone said, I really like my manager, they'd be highly engaged. But they weren't. The survey, we sort of calibrate lots of questions and then merge them and get the lineup, right? And that didn't equal high engagement.
The high engagement, was that self-assessed high engagement?
There was self-assessed
or
high engagement.
manager assessment?
No, this is self-assessment.
Right.
Self-assessment.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're assessing yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now that's a shocker, you know. Even you think, oh, you've got a good relationship as a leader, right, of the project team. Everyone likes you. This is good. Everyone likes me. They think I'm doing a great job. Therefore, they're all highly engaged. Well, maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe that's another one of those assumptions maybe we shouldn't make. Right? So, again, yes?
You know why? Could you tell me why?
Why? The reasons they weren't engaged?
Yes.
There were three things that disengaged people. One was the relationship with their immediate manager wasn't good. The second was they didn't believe that the senior leadership were taking the organisation in the right direction. And the third was they didn't have high pride in the organisation. And with the leadership direct supervisor, it was a trust factor. That was like a trigger. If they didn't feel high degrees of trust, it didn't trigger the other things that would lead to engagement. Right, so that's why. Those are the three things we found in the survey. And so we look here on how do we engage them? So what do you do now? What do you do now to engage people? What is the raft of things you've got at your disposal to engage people today? Either those being engaged or those leading doing the engaging. So from either side, if you're okay, let's start with that. What things do you find happen with your leaders or supervisors that make you feel highly engaged? What things do they do that you like and make you feel highly engaged? What would they be? And if I get silence, that's going to be a serious concern. I'm going to tell you.
Feedback is one thing, positive or negative.
Getting some feedback? Yes. Okay. Feedback's one. What else? What else makes you feel highly engaged?
Sort of taking you outside of your box, so showing you other parts of the job.
Okay.
Not necessarily.
Helping you to grow. Feeling that you're being helped to grow in your career and grow in your work. Yeah. What else?
Tell me the clear objectives of the project and
Tell me the why.
and how important it is.
Yeah. And why this is important. Yeah. Because often we can be a small cog in a big wheel running around, not really understanding that what we do makes any difference. We feel like, I'm just doing this little piece of the work here, and it doesn't make any difference to anything. It doesn't matter if I do a good job or a bad job. You don't understand that if you don't do that well, it impacts the whole thing. Only have a communication with your boss tells you that, usually. What else engages you?
Getting a sense of kind of inclusion to the project or teams.
Yeah. You have some element of inputting your ideas or helping in the decision making with the team, right? Yeah. So these are some things that get people engaged. And you see here, is the goal clear to them? What is it we're trying to achieve and why we're trying to achieve it? Do we see the value? As you said, what's the value of this goal to the whole organisation? Where does this piece of work that I'm doing fit into the big picture here? Is it feasible and possible? So if you ask for people to do things in a time frame that's impossible, or ask them to do things which are beyond their capability, experience, and don't give them any help, they might say, well, this is ridiculous, and give up. Making progress, so you're celebrating progress, reporting on it, yes, all important. Do they see the benefit to them personally? And again, you mentioned before, it's a flat organisation, so it's probably very hard if you just think that this is the only world that exists to convince people that this is how they can progress. So you might have to bite the bullet and say to people, any organisation is going to value someone with these skills. We value them very highly, and we're going to help you get those skills. But any other organisation would also value them very highly, and you would be a very valuable team member in any team with this set of skills. The brain says, that sounds good for me. That sounds good to me. I can go somewhere. Maybe I can't go anywhere here, just the way it's structured, but I can go somewhere, and this person's trying to help me, so I'm going to work hard. Now, in our case, we know we're employing people who will not stay. And in some cases, we tell them, look, give us 4 years. Give us 3 years. We'll train you. We'll help you to build your professional expertise to a point where you will move up. We don't have it here for you, but while you're here, you can make a big difference, and we'll make a big difference to you. If you understand that from the outset, it's all good. The expectations are clear. Sometimes they stay, sometimes they don't. But if you say, you know, Croissant, you should really work hard on your skills. You should come in early, go home late, really go for it, hammer out those projects, pound out the results, and if you do, it'll make absolutely no difference in your career. That's a pretty hard sell, I think, to someone, right? Now, sometimes you're in a particular work group that's very harmonious, and you'd rather work in that harmonious group than go into an organisation that's highly political and difficult. And usually that's how they are, political and difficult. So you might decide, well, I'll stay right here, thank you. I like my work, I feel comfortable and confident, and I don't have to fight with a lot of people all the time. That's what we offer as an employer, very harmonious, no politics. So, how do you help them in their career life? So these are things to think about, feeding back things to your team to get them engaged. Now, you might not be the supervisor of the people in your team, you might be their peer, but you have been given the role, for whatever reason, of being the leader of that team. So you have to manage without authority, but you've still got to motivate people, you've still got to engage people. Even though you don't have the authority, you've got to win them over, and that's going to be communication and using these things here to great effect. Otherwise, it's going to be you doing all the work, and you're already busy. So tracking progress, you know, how do you track progress now? You've all got projects on. What's your technique? What's your methodology for tracking projects? How do you do it now? What's your toolkit? You communicate that through share drive or email. Whatever. Right. So we've got our baseline and we're checking against that. So we've got like a status report here. So in some organisations, throughout the project, you may have to be reporting upward or to an external group on progress. If it's a very long program, then there's bound to be mid-project reporting. Bound to be. Have to be. Now, it may just be within the team, or it may have to be written down and sent somewhere. That will happen, right? So we need to know what's the project we're working on, who's leading the project, what are the reporting dates, it's got to be clear, what's been done, what's got to be done still, things that you expect to be on time, at quality, etc. Things that, well, we're doing a check here and we did a run rate on the numbers, and at this current rate we're not going to make the target. You know, very in a financial sense that's a good thing to do. Run rate, see how the progressing on target or not. There'll be other things for you. Key event status, actual comments. Yes, we've been in touch with all the Japanese side partners. They're all aware, they've all agreed, or this group has not agreed yet. They're going to tell us by X or something like that. So you will possibly have, again, because the nature of what you do is so, so often replicated, you could probably have a standard status report that would include all the things. So rather than having to do it every single project, you just go into the share drive, there's the template for status reports, pull it out and then play with it. So with the report, what are we trying to do? Now sometimes the report has got a political aspect to it. trying to make a part of the organisation look good, you know, trying to mask problems in that part of the organisation so it doesn't become apparent there's an issue there. You know, the report has got many functions apart from just telling what's going on. How the report is written can make a big difference. Okay. I heard a story recently that there were a number of people, it was a bit like your example, Max, a number of people had to input into a particular report, and they were asked to just do drafts, and then someone was going to sort of bring the whole thing together, and the person who got it last blasted off an email to the hierarchy saying, "I've just seen the report, it's rubbish," and copied it to everybody. Right, so the people who are working in that team, you can imagine, got the knife right in the back, you know, got the knife right in the back. So, you know, reports get used for all different sorts of things, and it's not even complete. It was only draft stage, but still, people can take these things and use them as tools for their own benefit. So we've got to be very careful when those things happen. Right? Of course, as it turns out, the person who did that got a good smack around the ear from the hierarchy because they realised what was going on. Bang, bang. But people still don't stop them from trying. So coming back to the reports, you know, the audience, again, who's the audience for the report? But again, you know, you're doing reports, do people have the perspective of the report? Do they understand what it says? Do they have interest in it? Do they want to know? What actions do we want them to take as a result of the report? Now, the report may be contingent on getting more money, or the report may be necessary to get more people. So, you know, there may be something we need. We lodge the report, and then the next thing happens. Right? So we have to be convincing the report, and we've got to get them to agree that this is tracking, and yes, we'll go to stage 2 now, and away we go. Right? So any questions on that section so far? We're going to go into some rules now, and we'll probably take a little break. But anything on that, because that was very, very detailed, wasn't it? You think about the scope of the project, how to scope it, and then how to execute it. There's nothing, I believe, additional that you need to know, having gone through this very detailed process for running a project. It probably may be a bit too detailed to some extent. But I think it's good to have this as a background, and then you can go and refer to it. You may come up with a lighter version. This may be too heavy for you. You may not have enough time. But if it's a critical project, high risk, no reward, super high risk, this would be a handy document to go to, just to make sure the planning's right, the execution's right, the people are right, the timelines are right, the resources are right, reporting is right. All of those little key pieces are humming along beautifully. The people are engaged, and all that sort of stuff. All right, we all good on that? Well, let's look at some rules now. This is on page 2.27. So, you know, we've got a whole bunch of these here. The first one is mind your business. It means be on top of the project. You know, understand what it is, do your work, use best practice where you can, understand what you're supposed to do and what you're not supposed to be doing, right? And keep up with the progress. Don't let other things interfere with your ability to work on this project. Work on it. Understand your customers' requirements, and this is critical. Do we all know what we have to do with it? Do we know what success looks like? Do we know what the should be looks like? Do we know what the key stakeholders want? Do we know what the project originator was thinking? Is that clear? That is absolutely, if you get that clear, life is easy. Life is easy, right? So what are the requirements? We've really got to get those out. What do we have to do? What do we have to deliver? Comprehensive and thorough, right? It's got all the project stakeholders. Now, that's where it gets a bit tricky. A lot of your projects are pretty big, multi-department, lots of stakeholders. You've got lots of advisors to the stakeholders. They get involved. The entourage, you know? They can be a major headache. And number 3 there, have a well-developed plan. Of course, if your plan at the beginning is comprehensive, you can accommodate change and adapt and be flexible. What you don't want is panic. What you don't want is confusion. chaos, right? Conflict. Those things will come out. So the project tells us why, of course, how, when, who's doing what, how much it's going to cost, and makes you think through the steps before you start. And it's like anything, it's easier to do. What I noticed was we had a project, we jumped straight into the detail. Straight into the detail. No planning whatsoever. Straight into the nitty-gritty, you know, we go to this market, to this company, da-di-da-di-da, the cars, you know, this sort of stuff. Didn't step back and plan it. We sort of cobbled it together, and then we just did it, you know. We could have done such a better job. We could have been so much more professional, but we didn't. We just didn't. We were clueless, basically. Then, number 4, build a good team, great ownership. So a good team means everyone works to the capacity and capability they have to offer. As you said before, Alex, some parts are very intellectual. Some people just don't have that background, education, experience to do that, but they can do other things. Are they working at the maximum capability they have to offer? That's a key point. Don't leave anything on the table type of thing, right? And is the teamwork good? Is the teamwork good because we're cooperative and they're getting good feedback and they're getting praise? It's real praise, it's not fake praise. It's praise around things that they can identify as praise. You know? And so we say clear ownership. People have the capacity to actually do the task, both in terms of authority, resources, time to do it, capability to do it. Follow up, make sure that things are on track. And here's your motivational triangle, right? Tools and training to do it, ownership to make some decisions inside the project, to own it, and then timely feedback on how you go. Especially, do not save up your praise and feedback for Christmas, okay? Don't only hand it out on 25th of December. Throughout the project, recognise people are doing a good job. Give them some feedback, particularly if they're doing something they're not used to doing, and they're, as I said to you before, what's your emotion when you get a project? You say, well, I worry that I can't do it. I'm scared that I'm going to, not be good enough to do this, or I've got doubt, I've got fear about this, because I don't have confidence yet. You're not going to go from 0 to 100 in confidence in a jump. It's going to go very gradually. And as you get feedback, that was very nice, you got that report done on time, we made our first of our timelines, big milestones coming, but that's part of done. You completed what you needed to do. Thank you, that was great. So thank you, you completed on time. It's not the major milestone, it's a small one on the way to the major milestone. That was great, thank you. How hard is that? But we forget to do it because we've got 100 emails, lots of other stuff happening, and time is money, so we truncated it. Right, so we track the progress status, we give it some visibility. Now visibility might mean you might have some in charts in the office around, people can see it, or it might be on their screens, or put it out so people see it. Always good to have that. Then your controls, are we on track? Okay, control points. 7, write it, share it, save it, write it down, keep it, save it, keep it, and use it again. Review, go back, look at it. What can we pull out of this? What best practice can we derive from this? Okay? Don't reinvent the wheel every time. 8, test it for it may not work. Yeah, sometimes you might want to try something small as part of a bigger exercise before you try and commit to the whole thing. Good to put your toe on the water first before you jump in with both feet sometimes. Number 9, ensure customer satisfaction. Real needs. Now, sometimes, I don't know why this is, but sometimes you get the iceberg effect. You know the iceberg effect? You've got the iceberg here, waterline here. We only get told about this part. Something has to happen. But there's a whole bunch of motivations, objectives going on that are not clear to us. Right? Very hard to satisfy someone who wants this total outcome when you're only working on this outcome. It's very hard to satisfy the whole thing. You just got to try and dig into what's behind that. What's behind that. And then be proactive. So this is trying to be on the front foot. You've anticipated, you're monitoring, pushing forward all the time. Being aware you're not trying to let scope creep come here and kill it by giving yourself too much to handle at one time. But you review and hold people accountable. Hold people accountable for what they do. Are there any other things we could add to that list, do you think, for you? If we had to come up with sort of like a cheat sheet for your organisation on some effective project management rules, is there anything we could personalise for your organisation that would help? And imagine if you had these rules as a common set of rules. Here's how we do it around here. These are our rules. Everyone understand this is how we do it. These are the rules. Follow the rules. Not a bad thing to do. They give you some people some scope for adding things to it through best practice, but it gives people parameters through which to work and an understanding of what they need to do. Anything else we could add to that? How we go? There's a lot there.
I guess it's the reward.
The reward part, yes, we could probably have a bigger reward part.
Yeah.
Yeah. And rewards, rewards don't have to be massive things. They can be even a thank you is a great reward sometimes. Food is always good. Alcohol's not bad, I found, Depends on the work on. We all good? Any questions on that part of the section? It was very detailed, I know, but you've now got very concrete, very, very detailed structured pieces on how to do every part of that project. There's nothing you're missing out here. We all good? Okay, let's go to 2.30. Find what were the two most useful outcomes from that discussion. Get those down. And then we'll